Hey, welcome! We continue to visualize your dispatcher workday. It's Monday, your task for the day is to load 2 trucks. Your first driver, Quinton, has been home all weekend and is ready to drive out from his hometown, Jacksonville, Florida. Quinton doesn't have the newest truck and his reefer trailer is pretty old as well. Quinton is the owner of his own small trucking company and he drives his own truck. Such drivers are called owner-operators. Well, the name speaks for itself. He owns the company where he operates his own truck. Because of his age, Quinton doesn't like to drive on unfamiliar roads. He prefers to provide his services only in the state of Florida, and he's also willing to go to Texas occasionally if it pays well. Your second driver, Derek, has a delivery today in Chicago, state of Illinois. His delivery appointment is set for 9 o'clock this morning. Derek drives a truck with a drive-in trailer. He doesn't own the truck. He works for his cousin's transportation company as a hired company driver. He drives all over the country and has no limits in terms of states or areas. Like most company drivers, Derek gets paid based on the number of miles he drives. He really wants to save up for his own truck and become an owner-operator, so he's always on the road, almost never comes home and always wants to drive as many miles in a week as possible to earn and put away as much money as he can. Why does all this information matter to us? Because these are the details that directly affect your route planning and your driver's preferences. In this lesson, we're going to talk about planning, and the most important thing in planning is to know your carrier's wishes. You can find a load at a crazy high price, which can bring you a great commission. But when you call and offer it to your carrier, he might just refuse it. Why? Let's find out. There are a number of factors that affect a carrier's choice of load. The first one is, of course, financial gain. There are 3 key components used to determine financial gain. First, gross rate, or simply just rate, is the total amount of money the broker will pay the carrier for transportation. Next one, total mileage. It's the total number of miles a truck has to travel to move the cargo. Total mileage includes loaded miles, which are miles the truck travels with the product from point of pickup to point of destination, and empty miles, which are often called deadhead in this industry. Deadhead is the number of miles an empty truck travels to get to the loading point. For example, if a truck is in Fort Worth, Texas, and it needs to pick up a load in Dallas, Texas, and bring it to Charlotte, North Carolina, then the deadhead from Fort Worth to Dallas would be about 33 miles, and the loaded miles from Dallas to Charlotte would be about 1,026 miles. Thus, the total mileage would be 1,059 miles. And the last financial factor is the rate per mile, also often referred to as dollar per mile. It's calculated by dividing the rate by the total mileage. For example, the total mileage on our previously discussed trip from Dallas to Charlotte was 1,059 miles. And let's consider that the rate is $2,500. In order to calculate rate per mile, we will divide 2,500 by 1,059 miles, which equates approximately $2.36. It means that for every mile traveled, the truck generated $2.36 in income. Rate per mile is a highly important figure because you can use it to calculate your profit margin and net income per load. When calculating the rate per mile, it's also important to pay attention to tolls. A toll is a charge for using a road or a bridge. In some areas, such as New York City, for example, tolls can be quite high and can greatly affect the real profitability of the load. You can use toll calculators such as Toll Guru, Toll Smart, and Truck Router to calculate tolls. You can find many toll calculators for any taste on Google. Some load boards will also allow you to check the cost of tolls right inside of their platform. Any self-respecting trucker knows his fixed and variable costs of operation. The fixed cost will include his monthly truck lease fee, insurance fee, licenses, permits, and so on. Basically everything he has to pay, even if his trucks are parked. The variable cost will include the driver's salary, if the driver gets paid by the number of miles, the cost of fuel, tolls, and similar costs that vary depending on how much the truck travels. So, by collecting all data on variable costs, the carrier can calculate how much each mile traveled costs him. So if his cost per mile is, say, $2, then any load with a rate per mile below that mark will result in a loss, and anything above that mark will result in a profit. In fact, it's okay to move one load at a loss. After all, it could be that this load brings the truck into a very high demand zone, and his next load will have such a high rate per mile that it will cover the loss of the last load. Smart carriers and dispatchers look at the financials not in terms of one single load, but in terms of an entire week, or even a month. By adding up the total gross income from all loads for the week and dividing them by the total number of miles for the week, we get the average weekly rate per mile, which is an indicator far more important than a single load's rate. You can do the same for a month or for a whole year. Here, for example, are the average market rates per mile from June through September 2022 for each of the three major types of equipment: drive-in, flatbed, and reefer. Yes, financial performance and earnings are the main goal in trucking, as well as probably in any other industry. But like I said, you can find a load with a great rate per mile and the carrier could very possibly turn it down. So what else affects the choice of a load? It can be the parameters of the load itself, such as weight of the cargo, or in case of reefer, the required temperature. Regarding the weight, we're not even talking about the fact that it could exceed the maximum allowed weight by law. We're talking about the fact that some carriers, especially those who don't have the newest equipment, refuse to carry heavy loads because it accelerates wear and tear of the truck and also increases fuel cost. A lighter load, even at a lower price, may be preferable to a carrier, meaning weight may be a key consideration when choosing a load. The situation is similar with temperature. All the refrigeration units are not very reliable at low temperatures. Moreover, transporting temperature-sensitive goods like ice cream is riskier, and some carriers just don't want to do it even at a very good price. All of these details are very important to discuss with your carrier before starting to work with them. Another thing affecting the potential decision is the route of transportation, the landscape of the route, road congestion, and complexity of the roads. Transportation in mountainous terrain requires a high degree of professionalism and concentration from the driver. Driving on Virginia's winding mountain roads is a lot harder than driving on the flat, wide highways of Texas, where the driver can just crank up the cruise control and some country music and enjoy life. Or, for example, driving through traffic on New York City roads is much more stressful than driving on the empty, deserted roads of Arizona. These factors are especially important when working with owner-operators because, well, they invested in their own truck and started their company not just for profit, but for their own comfort. The expression, "be your own boss," is the epitome of the American dream, so that's something you'll have to take into account. Hence, the most important truth, the dispatcher's job is not to find the highest paying load, it's to find the most appropriate load according to the carrier's wishes and goals. Your today's tasks is to load two fundamentally different drivers. One is the owner-operator who, like everyone else, wants to make good money, but for him, road comfort and safety come first. He's chosen several routes for himself and will not take another one even if he's offered more money. The second is a hired driver. In his situation, both he and the company owner are motivated mainly by the financial gain. This driver is willing to go anywhere just to drive enough miles, and the owner of the company is willing to send the truck anywhere just so long as the payment for the load covers all costs and brings him a profit. And the last important factor we're going to talk about is weather conditions. The United States is famous for natural disasters. Almost every year there are hurricanes, and in winter in the northern United States, driving on snow-covered roads means a high risk of accidents. Transportation to areas with bad weather conditions usually pays more because there are less truckers willing to do it. A mandatory task for any dispatcher is to constantly monitor weather conditions and road conditions. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration website, NOAA.gov, as well as weather.com, tripcheck.com, and weather.gov can help you with this. Save these websites in your notes for future. Alright, enough theory. I think you got the main idea. Before you start working with any carrier, you first need to learn their goals, desires, and preferences. Let's get back to our task for today. you and I still have to load Quentin and Derek.